Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Anything Joe's, a collaborative journey through the world of G.I. Joe. My name's Greg Engel,
And I'm Jaren Decker.
and we'll be your host today. Today on Anything Joe's, we are talking about the new console video game, the first G.I. Joe video game that's released in almost 10 years, G.I. Joe Operation Blackout. G.I. Joe Operation Blackout is a difficult game to review. Partially because there are lots of pros and lots of cons to it, but we're going to do our best to kind of dig in and dissect it. I would like to say at the top of the program that this review will probably have spoilers, especially because we're going to kind of dig into some of the behind the scenes content. So if you are anticipating playing the game and you want to go in completely blind, then I would encourage you to wait to watch this until after you've played it to completion, which will only take you about 5 hours. So, Jaren, how much of this game have you played so far?
I think I'm about halfway through. I think I'm on mission 6 or 7. And
Okay.
I think there's, 12? Or no, there's more than that. So there's, 17?
If you include the tutorial, which is like mission 0, I think there's 15 total missions.
Okay.
And those missions consist of a lot of different types of gameplay. Although at its heart, Operation Blackout is a third-person shooter, there are also elements of like vehicle driving, and you will play as different factions, and lots of other little things that are involved in it. Let's start at the beginning. So the core of the plot of Operation Blackout is Cobra has attacked the USS Flag, and you are playing as one of two characters, Cobra Commander or Storm Shadow, as they single-handedly assault the USS Flag, and they conquer the entire flag. I'm not real sure how that works. But ultimately, what you'll learn is that the characters are, for the most part, pretty interchangeable. Every character has a primary weapon and a secondary weapon, with a couple of small opportunities throughout the game to change to a different gun if you so choose. Ultimately, you shouldn't, unless you just find one that you really like. They are kind of all the same.
Yeah.
Every character has what's called an ultimate, which is basically just like in any video game where you store up a certain amount of kills or finesse, and then you can unleash an ultimate ability, which I found to be pretty useless for the
Yeah,
most part.
I still don't know what half of them are really doing.
So to give you an example of that, if Storm Shadow does his ultimate, he like throws a smoke bomb and he slashes enemies away. Well, this is a third-person shooter, so guess what? There aren't exactly a lot of melee level enemies there. Another great example is, as I was playing through the game, Lady J's ultimate is she puts her spear down and it creates like an energy net, which is supposed to deflect bullets or ammunition, but most of the time the enemies will charge through it and destroy you anyway. Especially though there's a level where Destro's fighting, he has an electrical gun that it does nothing. So
Yes.
so for the most
Holy
part,
cow.
I didn't use ultimates hardly at all. It was a waste of time, really.
The only one that I liked using was Sci-Fi, but it's because he did his little drone buddy.
Yeah, it's a good idea with a lackluster execution. Is the bottom line on it.
Now, Greg, I have another question. What difficulty did you play on?
So I am unfortunately perhaps the most qualified to discuss this game because I finished the game on normal difficulty because I wanted to be able to get through it so we could talk about it. I've since gone back and I'm playing it on the hardest difficulty now, because I want to get all the achievements, just like I did in 2009's Rise of Cobra video game. Another real wavy experience for our G.I. Joe fans. So Cobra Commander takes control of the USS Flag, and they apparently need the flag to use their communications device to uplink a bunch of satellites, and those satellites create a grid, and it locks out all the electricity in the world, except for Cobra devices that have a blackout drive on them, and that blackout drive, I guess, enables them to function. And so apparently that's all it took, because I mean, we're talking. This is chapter one. By the end of chapter one, Cobra has completely taken over the entire United States. It's the classic. Here's our banner on the White House. The statue of Lincoln's got Cobra Commander's head. It's checking off all the classic boxes.
Yeah, I was very shocked that it was that fast. Like it was like prologue basically.
Yes, so was I. So was I. It checks a lot of classic Cobra boxes of just this we've seen it before, and this is how it works. So they also capture a lot of GI Joe personnel off of the flag at the same time, and they basically split the entire team up. Like the people that got away are coming back together in secret to discuss, how they're going to fight back. And Cobra Commander is very concerned with how they're going to conquer, how they're going to find the escapees. And the team that you play as in the game consists of Duke, Snake Eyes, Scarlet, Lady J, Roadblock, and Sci-Fi, which is that's a weird sixth member. But the other five are, those are kind of the classics, with the exception of Lady J and Sci-Fi. Those are all classified figures. And I guess I should have mentioned at the top, if you've not seen anything on this game is very clearly influenced along the classified series. All of the characters reflect their appearances. It's supposed to take place in the classified universe. It's the only thing, except the figures that we've seen thus far, that we know that it makes a continuity. For example, in previous episodes, we had talked at length about Roadblock's weapon and how didn't really understand how it worked. Well, now I do, because I've seen it and I've used it, and it sucks.
It does. It really does.
It's like an electricity fired thing, and it has a range similar to like Winston from Overwatch. It's not what nobody's picturing Roadblock.
The only time it doesn't suck is when Destro's using it.
Yeah.
When Destro used it, because it's just he's just using it, and it's the exact same except for painted a different color. Mm-hmm. Maybe Roadblock had a few extra on the flag or something, but it was
maybe it was made by Mars Industries.
Oh, maybe you got me there. Because I went through trying from the beginning, playing on the hardest difficulty, and it has been that mission when you fight him and Baroness. Mm-hmm. Holy cow!
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that you start on the hardest difficulty, because
and I didn't know the snap to aim. That would have helped a lot.
Yeah, so let's talk before I continue on with this convoluted plot. Let me break down the gameplay a little bit. So we talked a little bit about how it's third-person combat primarily. If I was listing the biggest con of this game, I am very forgiving of the difficulties of being a game developer. I can't do it, so I hardly feel qualified to critique someone's hard work. But I am, and I will. The aiming system is very bad. There's something about trying to narrow in a shot on an enemy that it wavers so much that it's extremely challenging to get in that groove when you're shooting something, which in a third-person shooter is arguably the most important part of the game.
Yeah.
The movement is fine. The weapons are not bad, but the shooting is bad. The shooting is so bad that what Jaren is referring to is there's a auto lock on enemies similar to games like Red Dead have, where if you pull the left trigger to go into your iron sights, or that's not what it's called. This is not a World War II game, but whatever you call to go aim down their sights, it will snap to the nearest enemy. And I found that the only way that I could beat the game or really make any progress at all was to constantly snap to that enemy and shoot them, which is very jarring to look at, because in the gameplay footage, the camera will just be like zoom, 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 as you're trying to get through every enemy. But I mean, it did work, and it works. I figured it out early enough on that it made the rest of the game not a cakewalk, but much easier to get through. And because I don't think I would have been able to do it otherwise. The manual aiming system is broken. There's no other way to put it.
It's really bad. The best way I've been able to describe it when talking to friends about the game, because, they're all like, hey, should I get this game? And I'm like, maybe. The best way I've been able to describe it is it's like when you play like the old Mario games and you have the ice level and you jump and you say, okay, I want to go this far, and then the ice just kind of slides you a little farther over. That's what the aiming is like. You're like, oh, I'm going to hit this bat over here. And then you hit where that bat is, and then you just keep going a little bit too far. And then you try to come back, and you do the same thing. And it's just very, not very precise at all.
So that's the biggest con. For sure, if there was anything that was going to turn you off to this game, it'll be the aiming. That's not to say it's the only con, but it was the biggest detractor. Some of the other problems with this game are that I feel like it is a step behind graphically, which is maybe to be expected from a game that's that is a budget title. It is only half the cost of a regular retail release. So
if this had been a Switch game only, like a Switch exclusive, I think it would have been understandable. But that's what it looks like. It looks like a Switch game.
Yeah, I remember playing it and thinking that I was kind of like, this almost looks like this could almost pass as an Xbox 360 game.
Well, yeah, no, you're right. It could. It probably could. But
I'm not gonna hold any of that against it. I don't, and I'm also not gonna forgive it because this game walks a very fine line between how big of a fan of G.I. Joe are you and how tolerable how much can you tolerate in a game. If you buy this game and you go, I love G.I. Joe and I can't wait to play the next Grand Theft Auto or the next Call of Duty in a G.I. Joe format, you will be disappointed. You should have never set your standards that high, because it can't possibly deliver that. They just, no matter how much you love G.I. Joe, the fact remains that the interest level in this particular crossover product is just not that high, and that's why we see a budget title of it, because ultimately the alternative is probably nothing at all. So the combat is a little busted, the graphics are a little dated, there are some overall gameplay mechanics that are disappointing, and that is really the sum of the cons of this game, is that there's just some development issues with it overall. But I can't come into this and go, this game is bad, don't buy this game, because I don't think that's fair. Not just because of the budgetary price point on it, but because there are things about it that I really liked. For starters, it is impossible to deny that the people that worked on this game either were fans or did their homework. And my evidence behind that is there are a lot of very subtle nods in this game to the G.I. Joe universe. The first thing that comes to mind is the alternate skins that you can unlock. And the alternate skins are reflected you've got cartoon skins that were exclusively in the G.I. Joe cartoon. You've got skins that are reflective of 90s era Ninja Force. If you look at the behind the scenes stuff, which we will look at the end of this video, you can see in their design process what they used as reference. So when they designed the USS Flag, they specifically state, hey, we thought the G.I. Joe Resolute cartoon had the best looking flag, so we used that as a resource for the design. Guess what, folks? A lot of people wouldn't have done that. So they also some of these skins are original designs that are based in the G.I. Joe universe. So, and what I mean by that is they made like an alternate skin for Duke, and they were like not troubleshooting, but they were spitballing ideas of what they thought would work, and they designed a Night Force outfit for Duke. Duke is not in Night Force and never has been. So they were kind of doing their own thing. They went off the book and they really thought it out. I give them credit for that. I think that makes up for a lot of potential problems elsewhere. Is that at least somebody on this team genuinely cared about the product they were making, and I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
for sure. I'm one of the, my shtick in this my stick on this channel is that I'm the new guy and I don't have a lot of GI Joe info. But coming into this, I can't deny that it's charming. Like, it's super charming. I like it for what it is. Do I think it's great? No, but I definitely don't think it's bad at all.
Yeah, I do. Again, I think it walks that line between how much of a patient fan you are and how much you're willing to put up with in the name of having a good experience. 2009 Rise of Cobra is a great example. 2009 Rise of Cobra is not a bad game. It just wasn't what fans really were hoping for ultimately, because it was a step back in technology. Like, it plays like an old Contra. It was tethered into the movie, so it didn't have a ton of references to what we knew and loved. But there's nothing definitively wrong with that game. It just seemed a little dated, but in my opinion, was still as fun to play through as this. So you can maybe use that as a barometer with what your expectations are for playing the game. Okay, so back to the story. So Operation Blackout has happened. All electronics have shut off. Cobra rules. Welcome to Chapter 1. I looked for a Wikipedia article or any descriptor that would help me narrate or navigate through this plot, and I couldn't find it. And that's unfortunate because the plot is kind of crazy. At some point after this, it deviates into the 6 characters that you have are trying to save the G.I. Joes that have been captured, and others are exploring potential Cobra outposts out in the world, which is a good way to get like them out into various situations. There's a lot of like winter settings, for example, in this game, and so some of the team is trying to infiltrate Cobra and save their buddies, and the other half is trying to figure out what the next part of their plan is after world domination. And I don't know how they thread this needle, but at some point the gist of it is they're looking for a piece of clay or metal that is been hidden or protected by the Arashikage clan, and they are using that metal to make, ultimately they make some kind of bell out of it. And if I'm understanding it correctly, and there is no guarantee that I am, they make this metal into a bell, and they ring that bell, and it's some sort of mind control. That part of the story doesn't really manifest as well as I guess it needed to, because it becomes kind of a last stage weapon, but it didn't. It was never really a threat, and I didn't really get to see it in action that much because I was too busy fighting. So there's a little bit of plot underdevelopment where it doesn't quite deliver as you are hoping it would, and maybe that's maybe it's not the destination as much as the ride. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe that's why I can't relate the story, because I'm just like, well, who am I shooting next, or who am I going to see next? I should also, we named the 6 G.I. Joes. The 6 Cobras that you can play in this game are Cobra Commander, Storm Shadow, Destro, Baroness, Zartan, Firefly. Now, these are all characters that we have classified figures of, or at least know that they're coming, which will bring us into the latter half of this review, where we kind of talk about, is there anything in this game that we don't already know that maybe these guys have released, or are teasing, I should say. So you alternate between playing Cobra and G.I. Joe, which is kind of odd, but fun. It's a good idea. It's just weird because you're basically playing against yourself in the story, more or less.
Yeah.
And also, I should note that you aren't fighting. You very rarely directly fight the actual enemy. So the generic trooper in this game is always a robot.
Yep.
which from the G.I. Joe point of view makes sense. You're fighting Cobra bats, and the bats have been redesigned a little bit, and there are like upgraded versions of it. And this is a classic Sunbow Season 2 trick. We want to keep the rating of our game at a reasonable level, so we'll just have them destroy robots instead.
Yep.
Okay, I mean, I get it. It's maybe not exactly what I would want, but I'll allow it. If you're playing as the Cobras, you're also fighting robots. You are fighting a G.I. Joe robot team. It makes me think of Iron Man 3, another questionable property, where they have all those suits of Iron Man and they're all policing and they go rogue and he has to fight them or whatever. It kind of makes me think of that. It's like a universal security force that does backup work for G.I. Joe. I don't know. It's obviously was devised so you wouldn't have to shoot real people. And even when you fight the enemies, you don't ever really defeat them. They just kind of go into a state of defeat, more or less. They like kneel down and they have a shield, or they retreat. So, I guess it's not a huge deal, but it did kind of leave me wondering, like, where did you guys come up with this? There are some clever levels where you play as Cobra and the bats have been turned against them, like Mainframe has hacked them, and they have to fight their own robots. And I think that's a little bit more of a creative use than designing a G.I. Joe robot. And speaking of Mainframe, there are quite a few nods to the overall G.I. Joe universe, which I thought was pretty delightful, actually. Stumbling upon a Hiss 2 or finding a Rattler in the hangar, there are shots where you see a lot of characters from the G.I. Joe universe. I saw Chuckles and Jinx, and I saw General Hawk and Wild Bill and Shipwreck. Like they took the extended roster and at least gave you little hints of it. There's a shot of Major Blood. Tomax and Zaymot have a scene together.
Now, here's my question. Since I haven't finished the game, do you get to see Tripwire?
Oh, I didn't even think about that. I don't remember seeing Tripwire, but there is a shot where they show all the G.I. Joes that they captured on the flag, and they're all
it's a missed opportunity if they didn't.
He might have been in there, but it's such a quick shot that you really only see like bits and pieces of them.
Also, real quick, they're called the G.I. Joe Battalion.
Okay.
I'm sure we'll touch on it later, but they do have like a little blurb on what they were trying to go back and forth on.
Yeah, I mean, I get what they were doing. It's just an unusual. It was just an unusual execution.
I don't know why they didn't just say, "Hey, look, Mainframe hacked them. Their previous bats. Just give them a different paint job. Use the same character model."
I mean, that makes as much sense as anything.
Yeah. Oh well.
But Lifeline is featured in this game and has its own line. Backstop is in this a lot I guess because they needed a vehicle driver, and that was who came to mind. So anyway, a person that's a diehard G.I. Joe fan will see some cuts that you probably didn't expect. To say the least, I was not expecting Backstop to show up in this game or any G.I. Joe game ever. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of the game. That's how it's played. These are the characters that you can use. Here are some pros and cons of it. My overall feeling as someone that spent a lot of time playing this game is ultimately, it's not a bad game, but there were so many things that could have been better. It speaks directly to G.I. Joe fans. There's no question about that. I could not imagine a non-G.I. Joe enthusiast at some level playing this game. It would be like me playing like a Transformers game, which I don't know anything about. Mm-hmm. It would be it's harder to overlook that stuff because you don't have that love for the characters. But it's worth playing. Maybe wait until you can get it another $10 off.
Yeah.
And gauge accordingly based on what kind of gamer you are. You know deep in your heart how strict you are on your experiences, and if you feel like you'll be wasting your time, I feel like I've described it well enough that you would know that. But ultimately, if you're a true enthusiast, and I think the casual gamer would probably get more out of it. It was an enjoyable experience. It's still the first G.I. Joe game we've gotten in almost 10 years. So I'm thankful for that. I always chalk this up to the Futurama rule, which is that when Futurama got canceled and brought back, it wasn't as good as it originally was. And I always say, well, I would have rather had bad Futurama than no Futurama at all. And that's how I feel about this game. I would rather have this so-so game than no G.I. Joe game, which would have been the alternative.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I think they could build on. I mean, we'll have to wait and see kind of how it does, how it performs sales wise. It came out at a pretty good time, I would think. Not a lot of big competition, and it's something that probably through the holidays, maybe grandparents can get for their grandkids. And like it's one of those games, like you said, that probably the casual would be a little more inclined to enjoy. Like me, I am a big shooter fan. Like shooter is my genre, so it was a little bit tough to play through some of the points, especially with that really bad aiming. But my desire to learn more about G.I. Joe, and I think that's what really helped it. So it's one of those games that's really hard to recommend to people as well. If your friends or something, if they're not into G.I. Joe, it's a hard sell, But like Greg said, I think it's one of those things that if you listen to us talk about it and you think you would enjoy it, go pick it up. And if you don't think so, hey, maybe it's not for you.
It certainly has a divide in the community from what I've seen, where some people are very defensive of it, saying, hey, just take it for what it is and give it a chance. And then there are other people that are strictly like, no, this game is trash. Look at all the reviews. I think the Metacritic score at the time of this recording is like a 57, which is, that is pretty bad. But a lot of the reviews also specifically speak to, hey, if you're a G.I. Joe fan, this is pretty much made just for you.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Plus, if they fix that aiming, you'd probably be up into the mid to high 60s.
Yeah, we'll see how they update it going forward. I had just seen a report on the Full Force where they announced that there would be downloadable content coming out for it.
Oh, nice.
So they either planned that well ahead of time, or the sales have at least been good enough for them to kind of push forward and do a little more with it, which is probably not something that happens for them based on their previous experiences. So that's our review of Operation Blackout. I know it's a mixed bag. It's hard for me to just go 5 stars, get it, but I can't also go 1 star, don't touch it. It's 3 stars. It's dead center.
Yeah.
So the other part of this review that we wanted to talk about is I wanted to talk about the behind the scenes content that they released on this disc. And what we are specifically looking for is not just the other stuff that didn't get released in this game, but the potential for what this game could potentially mean for the classified line that maybe we haven't had confirmed yet. So I want to start. We'll look at all the characters. Some of them we'll look at less than others because some of these characters we know pretty definitively what's going on with. And the first character that comes up under character profiles is Duke. So if you look at this Duke and you see his alternate outfits, these are actually really interesting because, first of all, not all of these outfits made it into the game. This outfit that you see on the furthest left that's got a Splinter Cell vibe is not available to unlock, to my knowledge. But the Tiger Force Duke on the far right is, which is a great nod, and is not something to rule out as a repaint in the future that they might do, because it would be the exact same mold as the original Duke, just a different coat of paint.
Especially if they gave him the helmet. I would love to see the helmet.
The figure in the middle is what I was talking about earlier, where the
Night Force.
Yeah, they were exploring the concept of making a Night Force figure. I really like this. Regardless of how you feel about the design, the idea that there are people out there that aren't making G.I. Joe figures that were exploring the G.I. Joe universe in alternate ways, I think it's really cool. But ultimately, we have a Duke. I don't, if other than a Tiger Force repaint, I don't anticipate a new Duke coming anytime soon.
But then again, we've already got 2 Roadblocks, so who knows?
That's true. Speaking of Roadblock, he's the next character profile. Hey, so let's start with a couple things. If you look in the upper left-hand image of this character profile, you can see he's got those shades. That's from the second roadblock, the Target exclusive roadblock.
Mm-hmm.
This didn't come with the first roadblock. So I think that's actually pretty interesting that at least at this point they had already designed, they already were, fleshing out 2 different character designs for it, and that they were trying to integrate both of them. If you look in the upper right-hand picture, you can see that this is the absolute last way I thought Roadblock was supposed to hold that gun. He looks like he has his thumb around the trigger, and he's balanced it on his shoulder.
I feel like that's got to be him just carrying it for fun, right?
Well, then he probably shouldn't put his finger on the trigger.
Probably not, but I can't
you would-
imagine shooting like that.
That stock that's at the top of it, I guess, reinforces that it's not. I mean, he doesn't hold it like that in the game, so I guess you're right.
Hopefully.
So, yeah. So if we look at the outfits for this, you've got a snow outfit. Now, I'm not going to jump the gun on this because there are a lot of, like I said, there are a lot of winter levels in this game, and a lot of characters got snow gear. I don't think that they're going to release a snow line. I hope they don't release a snow line.
Greg, I got bad news for you. I think it's going to happen. We've already got Arctic Mission Storm Shadow.
Yeah, but he always looks like that.
I don't know. They seem to really want to make roadblocks.
They do really like making roadblocks. This would require a lot of retooling, though, unless they get a generic snow outfit and they start stamping it out. I think this was just an easy fix for them, something that they could design and move forward with. The middle design for this is doesn't really encapsulate either of the roadblocks that we've seen thus far.
It's like a mismatch almost.
Yeah, I do like his bandana, his little red, white, and blue bandana. Mm-hmm. Again, I don't think this is going to be a figure. I do think it's a pretty great outfit, though. I'd take it over the Target exclusive outfit. And then the vacation attire,
I love it.
The cook roadblock, which I also think is very, very good. This is a great nod to the cartoon and the comic as well, because he's a known chef, and there have been multiple references to him dressing kind of like this. I like that he has his apron on, but then he also has his shin guards on. So I don't.
If anyone wants to make a custom and send it to me, just know I will love you eternally.
So I'm not anticipating anything different out of this. This is a good outfit set, but I don't think we're going to get anything crazy out of it.
Unfortunately.
So that brings us to Scarlet. Scarlet is kind of got the same deal. If we go from the right and work our way to the left, regular outfit, snow outfit, and then the outfit on our left is her Ninja Force outfit, which is great. This is a repaint that I would love to see. It's one of the only other unique designs that Scarlet's outfit has, and this is actually a pretty great modernization of that skin. It has changed a lot of things, some subtle and some not so subtle, but it to me is immediately recognizable as that Ninja Force outfit. It says her alternate skin comes from a mix of different sources from both toy lines and the different universes from G.I. Joe, but in my mind, that's just a straight up Ninja Force outfit. And if I look at that compared to the version on the right, it doesn't look like it would require a substantial amount of retooling, other than her shoulder pads and maybe a little bit on the way the torso is built. But, and I guess she would need a different head mold, which we know from Roadblock that they're obviously willing to do. Yeah. I would give this a maybe. It wouldn't. I don't feel like it's impossible that we would see this skin. But I don't exactly know how likely it is this early on. It's would require maybe a little bit more new tooling than they are looking for in a repaint. But it's something that I would put on the docket, on the maybe list.
As a hopeful for you, right?
Yeah.
Top of the hopeful list.
All right, so let's look at the character mold for Lady J. Couple things. First of all, we know with almost 100% certainty that Lady J is in the next wave after Zartan and Firefly, because it's been confirmed by multiple retailers for a pre-order listing. So it's safe to assume that those designs were far enough out that this character mold that we're looking at is a pretty darn good representation of what we're going to get. There's going to be some wiggle room for that design to probably change between when they got these designs and when it hits the shelf. But the thing that really stands out in this design is she has gold shin guards, and she also has a pretty prominent gold like bracer on her arm. It is odd that she only has on one of them on one arm, but everything about those things alone suggests that this is probably a pretty accurate representation of what we're going to see out of that Lady J, and that's fine. I think that this figure hits all of the basic notes that you would want to see from this character. It doesn't deviate very far at all from the original Lady J. I don't know why that bracer takes up so much of her arm. It almost looks like, if you don't look real close, it almost looks like she has a robotic arm.
Yeah, I think she needs a little bit more, kind of like in that midsection, the torso and waist hip area. I think just a little bit more of something. Even just like if you look on the actual picture on the right side of the character model or character profile picture, she has that like cross, that strap going across her chest. I think something like that would help just to break it up.
Yeah,
because it looks very bland in that photo.
She's got a knife there as well. She obviously has some kind of backpack equipment. She has some kind of disc on her hip. Yeah, maybe this is just a stripped down version of what we're gonna see. I can't speak to this harpoon gun, but again, everything suggests that they probably didn't just design this from the ground up. I bet she has a weapon that resembles this, that it launches her some kind of spear, which is not great, but if the spear is removable, you could get rid of the gun, and I would be perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the alternate outfits go, I don't think that we are going to see either one of these, basically. This says, the team dug deep into the lore and developed an alternate skin that placed her in one of the many G.I. Joe strike teams, rather than basing her look after any single piece of reference from the universe. So it's important to note that these guys probably did design this black and gray outfit that's in the middle here on their own, which is actually kind of unfortunate because this outfit rocks.
Yeah.
It's substantially different than her norm, but it still screams Lady J. Has a lot of cool things going for it, but it's obviously a little early to say that's a repaint when we haven't seen the original version yet. But I like this. I like this design a lot.
Let me, I got two things to say. One about the Arctic version. She looks exactly like Tracer from Overwatch. There's our second Overwatch reference of the episode.
That's right. Crossover happening. Crossover confirmed 2021.
The other one, the gray one, I'm going to put my money on that being Cobra Island.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, because if you remember in the live stream when they mentioned the last Cobra Island set, they said, well, let's take a look at another section, and it looks like there's at least one more section for Cobra Island. Hold on. If you can see, I'll pull it up on mine. Oh, well, maybe there's only two. I might have been wrong. But, I don't know. The way they said it made me think that there's probably going to be at least one more wave of Cobra Island, which I hope not.
I think you're right about that, actually.
But that looks like similar. Oh, man, Ray just jumped off at me. Oh, there they all go. Very sad. But that, to me, looks similar to how they did the Roadblock. That kind of, like, dark coloring. I hope I'm wrong, because I don't want any more Cobra Island at all, ever again. Hopefully we're wrong. But I'm going to say that so that in, 6 months or whatever, I might be able to come back and say, hey, I was right.
Yeah.
Or we'll just act like this never happened.
Yeah, for real. wouldn't hurt my feelings to see this figure, but I'm not going to put a ton of stock into it.
Yeah.
That brings us to our heavy hitter, Sci-Fi.
Ooh.
So Sci-Fi has not been announced in an upcoming wave, but looking at this figure, there's no way that this is not the design for Sci-Fi Classified.
Mm-hmm.
There's somebody put a lot of work into modernizing this figure, and that includes a gun that very obviously fits into the Classified line, and a drone, which we've just seen with Firefly. So everything that I'm looking at is screams somebody got paid to design a classified sci-fi, and that they have a at some point they're planning on putting a figure out of him, which is great. I love sci-fi. It's interesting that if you go into the actual information card for sci-fi, he's not like listed as a laser trooper anymore. He's listed as a, I don't remember what it's called exactly, but they use the word havoc to describe him, like he's some kind of like heavy artillery guy or someone that causes a lot of chaos.
Yeah, because his gun in the game is like almost like a grenade launcher.
Yeah, yeah, it's like a railgun, but with an explosion on the end.
Yeah.
So it seems like they might be rebranding like his purpose on the team a little bit as well. But this, all of the things that we've seen, this is a lock. If this doesn't happen, I would be blown away. Now I don't know how far out this is because we've already seen announcements well into next year. But there's no way this figure is not coming.
This could be some kind of exclusive, honestly.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if we get this one like as like a spring, kind of like a drop. I don't even know what's going on then. I don't think anyone knows what's going on then. I feel like this could be a lot sooner than we think.
That's not factoring in the fact that Sci-Fi is a playable character in this game, and Hasbro probably wasn't like, yeah, you can use anybody as a playable character. No, they were probably like, why don't you use the characters that you can buy figures of? Of all the things that we've seen, this is a deadlock. If you look at the alternate outfits for Sci-Fi, you can also see that he has one where his face mask is completely on. So I'm hoping that means there's maybe an interchangeable head, or maybe even a visor that moves or actually is functional on the faceplate.
I need 4 of these if they come out.
I like this a lot.
I want a custom of each of these alternate outfits. Actually, no, make it 5 because one of these would actually the normal outfit would probably be a really easy switch into a tripwire.
Here we go. So I'm not going to put any stock into the alternate outfits in this. I think that they probably were given free reign to design. I do like the middle one because it looks like a spacesuit.
Yeah, it's a little bulkier.
Yeah, but I don't anticipate any of that stuff happening in the near future. But I'd put hard money on this figure coming and looking exactly like this, which I'm excited about. That brings us to Snake Eyes. So, a couple interesting things about the Snake Eyes. First of all, so you've got your regular Snake Eyes in the middle, and that is dead on the classified figure right down to the little Arashikage logo that's above his visor. That makes no sense. Even though it's not reflected there in the art, it is in the game because I couldn't take my eyes off of it. The outfit that's on the left, that's like a camo pattern, is interesting because it's not in the game. There's only one unlockable skin for Snake Eyes, and it's this amazing nod to the cartoon on our right, which I don't think we're going to get a figure of anytime soon. Which begs the question.
But then again, we got Profit Director Destro, so never say never.
You're right, but that would be a lot more than a repaint.
SDCC 2021.
So the figure on the left is can only be one of two things. They worked up a mock-up for the game and decided to not use it, which is very unusual because Snake Eyes is one of the only characters that only has 2 skins. I'm not really sure why they would exclude what is maybe not a groundbreaking design, but it's not bad.
It kind of makes me want to use one of my 4 Snake Eyes to turn into that.
Well, I would say maybe hold off because if they do release a repaint, I don't think it's impossible that we would see this. I'm not going to put a lot of money on it, but this design came from somewhere, and I can't think of a practical reason not to use it in the game when he was already lacking an extra skin. And this is just a straight repaint. So I'd say this is a maybe.
It looks so cool.
It's really not bad at all.
Has there ever been like a camo Snake Eyes like this in a figure form?
Man, I'd have to look through the 155 different Snake Eyes versions there are.
That's true.
But it doesn't ring a bell right away in my vast void of Snake Eyes knowledge. No, I can't think of anything that looks like this. And I mean, it's a military camo. It's kind of makes sense. I mean,
And it looks
if
so
you're
cool.
if you're not going in as a ninja in the night, then why wouldn't you wear camo? So this
Like,
is a
if I could
maybe.
have one alternate outfit from any of the figures we've seen so far, that's probably it. Well, that or Chef Roadblock.
I wouldn't be shocked to see it, but it's a bit of a gamble. It's just an interesting bit of trivia that kind of turned up. So
We'll
those
just
are
have to
the
see if they repaint the classified Snake Eyes like OG O-Ring Snake Eyes.
right. So those are the Joes. Let's take a look at the Cobras. So we have a lot less to look at in the Cobra side of things because we've seen all these characters before. The Cobra Commander alternate outfits are pretty straightforward. If we'll start at the right, we have the OG Cobra Commander, which was like a digital deluxe bonus skin that you could get. And it is almost unfair to say we might see this because not the Regal Cobra Commander. What's the name of the?
No, you're right. It's Regal.
Okay, but because the Regal Cobra Commander is wearing colors similar to this and is probably good enough for Hasbro to check that box for them to say we've done it.
Yep.
The second skin is the Snow Cobra Commander, which we have seen a modern figure of that looks a lot like this. But ultimately, it's not something I think they're going to put a lot of time and money into. And the one on the left is that's the IDW Cobra Commander, which I love. I think is a great skin, but isn't a straight repaint, so would probably require a lot of work. This figure also probably would not appeal to kid collectors at all because it's so serious business. Basically, is what they've termed it. I think it's a great skin, and I love the way his helmet looks in it, but I don't know how it would work on a shelf. So, I don't think we're going to see any of these. I like these skins a lot, but
yeah, they would be cool. I mean, I really like that Arctic one, but that's also because I've got a soft spot for Cobra Commander painted black.
Yeah. So, let's talk about Storm Shadow a little bit. It's interesting that they chose to have Storm Shadow look like the original Storm Shadow in this, and he doesn't look like Arctic Strike. It's doubly weird because there's a ton of snow missions and he doesn't look like Arctic Strike. So, does that mean the version that we're looking at here is an indicator of an upcoming Storm Shadow? And my gut says yes, because they have made not a substantial amount of deviation from the Storm Shadow formula, but based on, take that Cobra Commander that we just saw, for example. That Cobra Commander skin is verbatim what he looks like in the old days. So if you're going to make a Storm Shadow that looks the same, it stands to reason that he probably would as well. This Storm Shadow doesn't look like that. This Storm Shadow has lots of minor implications. Lots of minor amplifications. Look at his face mask is it's like almost like a piece of technology or a face guard. There's a lot of sculpting that went in there. He has a gray stripe that goes down the middle of his head that doesn't seem to be a callback to anything I can think of. He has these like Shredder-esque looking things going on his forearms, on his gauntlets. He has a little piece on his belt with a piece of cloth attached to it. A lot of little things that if you went to somebody and went, draw a Storm Shadow, these are not things that come to mind easily.
No.
So all of that leads me to believe this is coming at some point down the pipeline, and this is probably reflective of what he'll look like. And I gotta say, not too bad. It looks pretty good. I would prefer it to be a little bit more old school and maybe not as many deviations, but this doesn't break the mold in any substantial way. I like that he has like a hood on the back that I guess he could pull up. Yeah, I think this figure is actually pretty likely and has a lot of potential.
I wish they had done that hood with the Arctic Storm Shadow, because the hood on the Arctic is one of my least favorite parts.
Yeah, if you look at the other two Storm Shadow outfits, the Storm Shadow outfit that's on the left is, color-wise especially, makes me think of the Rise of Cobra line. He always was wearing this kind of like cream eggshell color. And The one on the right doesn't remind me of anything at all. The one on the right they just kind of went rogue with.
Is that one on the right supposed to be the Arctic one?
I don't think so. Because the Arctic one has a lot of actual full-on black.
Yeah.
So I don't know where these two designs came from. Well,
The one on the left, I wouldn't be surprised to see eventually because it looks like the shins are the same from the Arctic. The face mask looks the same from the regular. Like, it all looks like pieces that could be.
the
Maybe
one
a little extra on the torso.
the one on the left is so predominantly G.I. Joe the movie to me that it's hard for me to see it in any other way. Which is an unusual thing to take a nod to, considering how the reception is mixed at best. But yeah, I don't think we'll see either one of those skins anytime soon. But I do think that his regular skin is a for sure.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
So we've seen Baroness before. It's really weird how much emphasis they put on how purple her hair is at the bottom.
Yeah.
So much so that I had to go look at the figure to see if it had anything that was as suggestive as that. So we know the regular Scarlet skin, or the regular Baroness skin, looks just like this. We know that the snow skin is just a snow skin. But the skin on the right is the Crimson Strike Team Baroness. And that's a dead ringer. It's essentially a straight repaint. It's a nod to an existing skin outfit that exists in the G.I. Joe universe. I wouldn't rule this out. I would say that this is the non-Target exclusive version that we could see in the near future. Wouldn't surprise me at all.
So you think the non-Target exclusive is going to be the Crimson one or the other one?
The Crimson one, yeah. The one on the
See,
left.
I thought it would be the standard one. Or are you saying the standard one is the Target exclusive?
Yeah. The Baroness is a Target exclusive.
Oh, okay. I just thought they would probably release her with like the gold shoulder pads, a little bit more gold on her.
Well, we know from the experience with the officer that they have to make some changes. So
That's true.
It's just a matter of if the game that you play is you need to change it enough to make the people that bought a Baroness still want a Baroness. But
True.
you also have to make it so the people that didn't get a Baroness will find this to be acceptable. I'd say that this is a very likely release. There's a possibility that if they didn't plan it, that they would see this and go, okay, well, we want to do that.
We can make money with this very easily.
So next up is Zartan. This Zartan skin is also a dead ringer for the classified series we've got, and the belt buckle is what gives it away. The belt buckle is a uniquely designed thing that they obviously carried over. This is like a 3D computer rend. So looking at the alternate skins for Zartan, there's a Ninja Force.
There's something.
There's a Ninja Force skin. This is really the only other dramatic departure from how Zartan looks, is when he has the mohawk. And I don't think we're going to see that in the near future, which is actually kind of a shame because there is a sense of novelty to this. They don't reflect this very well, but until you select this character and play as him, you can't see the amazing Dreadnought logo that they've designed that is pictured here. That he has it on the back of his jacket, and
nice.
I feel like it a lot. I don't know if they designed that for the figure and we haven't seen it yet, or they designed it for the game, but somebody knocked that out of the park, guys. I like that a lot. The other skin is not really a nod to anything specific, and I don't hate it. It is not a substantial deviation from what we've already seen, other than his mouth is actually covered, and it's a little bit more set in gray. He looks armored up a little more. I don't know. I don't think we're going to get a repaint of that anytime soon.
No, but it does make me more excited for Zartan to come out.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want that Zartan badly, but I guess we've still got a ways to go on that.
And the monkey paw.
And the monkey paw. I'm glad that wasn't featured. Destro skins are really unusual. The regular Destro skin, obviously, is just tried and true formula. The winter Destro skin is pulled from a modern figure, more or less, and it's pretty accurate. This other one, on the other hand, It says, for the alternate skin, we went through a long process because the initial looks were not hitting the target mood, so we kept changing his color scheme and adding or removing things to tone it down. That doesn't cover any of the questions I have about this figure. Because he's wearing like a jacket. They've added an unusual hat. He has goggles on. Somebody made a lot of artistic choices with this figure that does not reflect existing appearances of Destro. He almost looks like he's out of like World War II or something. I don't hate it, but it's a lot to take in for something I had not seen before.
I don't know how I feel about it. I like his little goggles and hat though. I think they're cute.
I mean, there's a novelty, but I'm not expecting them to make a figure of that anytime soon. So let's look at Firefly. This Firefly design is, again, pretty much exactly what we've seen is going to be released. The collar and the drone also are a dead giveaway. It is
Real quick, sorry. He reminds me of Black Major. That's the vibe I was getting.
Oh yeah.
I was just Googling it. I was like, it looks like
the
someone.
hat. Yeah.
The hat and the jacket, I think.
It is interesting to see the drone in this game in play. Much like my questions about Roblox gun, Firefly's drone, I have similar questions about. So it was interesting to be able to utilize that and see it in action. Firefly's alternate skins are, it says that they drew inspiration from the Renegade story arc, and the outfit on the lower right is obviously what that is, and I like that, and that's a great outfit for him. One of his better alternates as well. It says for the standard skin, we went with our rendition to the demolitionist look that offered the Pursuit of Cobra line of figurines, which is basically an outright lie. What you are really saying is Hasbro sent us these pictures of these figures that we're getting ready to release, and we used that.
Yeah.
Maybe they were afraid that information wouldn't be out at the time the game released, so they recovered their bases. This is not reflective of the Pursuit of Cobra line, in my opinion. The suit that's in the lower left-hand corner is a pretty original design, to my knowledge, and is really pretty good. It's a pretty radical reinterpretation of the character. He almost has a Crocmaster vibe going on.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Especially with those goggles.
Yeah. I like it, but I don't think we're going to see it anytime soon. Now, this Renegades figure, I wouldn't rule out as the non-target exclusive if they were going to be creative about it. I think that would be a low maintenance version to design. Then we have some pictures of the robots. Oh, that's right. We got one last thing to talk about. Let's talk about this Cobra Bat. So,
oh man,
before I let you loose on this, Jaren, I just want to say that Cobra Bat is an iconic troop and is one of my favorite troop builders from the G.I. Joe universe. So when I saw this, I was put off quite a bit. It doesn't quite look the way that I would hope, in the sense that a lot of these figures capture the personality of the original character and modernize them some. This Cobra Bat, I feel like, has gone a little bit off the rail. Now, we have no evidence to suggest that the Cobra Bat will look like this or is even in development. But we've got an officer and we got a Viper. At some point, probably sooner rather than later, I think we will see a Cobra Bat. I really hope he doesn't look like this, because he doesn't look like a Cobra Bat to me. I can't specifically be like, this is why it doesn't work. But it looks too much like a Cobra Bat that would have been designed in the early 2000s, as opposed to something that would fit in with the line today. That's all I have to say about it. What do you think about the Cobra Bat, Jaren?
I love it. I know you had messaged me when we were talking about it, and you were like, yeah, I'm not a big fan. And I was like, oh, well, that's unfortunate, because I absolutely adore it. I think if you've listened to more than one episode of our show, you'll understand that I love troop building. I don't have a whole lot of them, but I've got my little bat here that you picked me up. Shout out to Roma Collectibles. But I don't know what it is about this. I love how bulky he is. My preference, Hasbro, since I know you listen to us on the daily, make this the Hasbro Pulse, the troop builder. Put it at $14.99, and I will buy all of them. Thank you.
I guess what I really would like to see, and I know, but they're not going to do this, and maybe I'm in the minority, but I want them to put the hologram on its chest.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I know holograms are long gone. That nobody's buying Web of Spider-Man number 90 with the shiny hologram cover, but I think it would be a great throwback, and was really cool when I was a kid, and I'd like to see that. I don't know. I'd like to see that nod. The last thing I want to show you guys before we wrap up is this is a shot of the character profiles of some of the other characters that are utilized. I don't think any of these characters are on the docket to be made, and a lot of that is because you can tell that they verbatim used original G.I. Joe art. Lifeline, that shipwreck, they looked exactly the way they've always looked. Some even look exactly like their card art. I think they were just doing the good thing and being like, we want to back up the roster a little bit. So they pulled some other characters from the history of G.I. Joe that they didn't have any updated information on. The Cobra stuff is the same way. It's interesting to see that on this list of characters they didn't get to use, here's a shot of Scalpel, which is their medic. I would have flipped my lid to have seen medic or to see Scalpel being used in this. There's also an Alley Viper up here, which is interesting because it's been hinted on the original art forever that there is an Alley Viper coming. So I'm wondering if that's maybe an early preliminary that they sent them and they're reworking it. I don't know why that Viper hasn't come out yet. Why in the world would you launch a classified series, produce a piece of art for it, put the Alley Viper on it, and then not make the Alley Viper? There's a million other characters you could use. It's also interesting to note that the Storm Shadow character that they have here in the upper right-hand corner doesn't look like the one that we saw before, the one that they are almost certainly going to release a figure of. And then Tomax's Emont and Major Blood, which are both featured for a millisecond. And that's it. Those are all the things that we saw and all the things that we think we might see, and hopefully we covered the game well enough that you are able to make a decision for yourself whether or not it's for you or not. If you play Operation Blackout, if you've played Operation Blackout, I'd love to hear your feedback on it. I feel like it is really a hard game to nail down because the fan base is so divided on it, and rightfully so. There's a lot of things to feel divided about. But if you've played it and had experience with it and you want to talk about it with us, we'd love to hear it. You can leave a comment here in the YouTube section. You can email us directly at anythingjoespodcast@gmail.com. Or you can reach us on any of our social accounts. We're on Twitter and Instagram at anythingjoespod. Or you can find our Facebook group under Anything Joe's Pod as well. Thanks so much for watching this video. As always, it's been great talking and sharing the G.I. Joe universe with you, Jaren.
Well, it's been great talking with you and everyone listening. I do have one last question. Since I haven't finished the game completely, do vamps show up?
Nope. No vamps that I can remember.
Don't buy this game. It's garbage.
No tripwire, no vamp. That's the Jaren.
Nope.
Jaren can't approve. Well, maybe they'll be on our next episode. And we hope you'll join us for our next episode where anything's open for discussion here on Anything Joe's.